and welcome. You should be on page 46 of your pre-algebra quarter 2 notebook. In this video, we're going to talk about identifying slope. So what is slope? The slope of a non-vertical line, so not up and down, is the ratio, and we'll get back to this idea a little bit later, of the vertical change to the horizontal change. Slope is also referred to as the rate of change. And in algebra, we use the variable m to represent slope. So m equals slope. Now, as we discuss slope going forward, I'm going to use a symbol, this triangle symbol. And that triangle symbol stands for change. So when I write a triangle before perhaps a y, I mean the change in y. So when we look to find the slope on a graph, we're talking about the ratio of a vertical change to the horizontal change. So if you remember, my vertical change represents changes in y. So slope is the change in y. And a ratio, one of the formats is a fraction, so I'm going to write this as a fraction. And it's the vertical change to the horizontal change, which is my change in x values. So if I want to kind of just bring this definition in here, I can just write vertical, and I'll use that triangle again for change over horizontal change. And we can also break this down a wee bit more. When I'm talking about a vertical change, I'm talking about what is the change up and down. And when I talk about a horizontal change, I'm talking about what is the change left or right. So in algebra, we also talk about what type of slope is it? Is it a positive slope? Is it a negative slope? And to determine that, we would read our slope like we read our book. And that is left to right. So you're going to be looking left to right. If you look at a graph left to right and the line is going up, we will say the slope is a positive slope. You may have watched the video Slope Dude, and Slope Dude would say puff, puff, positive. Now, if the line is going down, we'll say the slope is negative. And again, in Slope Dude, we would say that's nice, negative. Well, now we know what slope is. It's going to be the change up and down over the change left to right. Let's look at how we can use a graph to find the slope of non-vertical lines. One thing we want to make sure we do first is you want to find what I'm going to call two perfect points. And what I mean by that is I want points that are right in the intersection of two lines. So you're going to see that these graphs have highlighted a couple perfect points. When we get to 3 and 4, we're going to look for that. Then I want to count the change up or down. That will be my change in y. Then I'm going to count left or right to find my change in x. And if necessary, I will simplify my slope. So what does that look like? Let's look at this slope here. I always start off this way. I write slope equals the change in y over the change in x. It really helps me remember what I'm looking for. So I want to get from here to here. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3 spaces. So my vertical change is 3. If I go up, so this is just a note, or I go right, that represents a positive number. If I go left or down, that represents a negative number. So I was going up, so it's a positive 3. Let's look at my change in x. I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I went right 7 spaces. I'll put my change in x here. To the right is positive. So I'm going to look at 3 sevenths. Can I simplify that? Do 3 and 7 have any common factors greater than 1? Well, they're both prime numbers, so no, they don't. So your slope of this line is 3 sevenths. And I'll just point over there so we know which line. Let's take a look at number 2. I do have 2 perfect points, and I can see that this slope is going to go down. So I'm assuming my slope is going to be negative left to right, right? Well, I'm going to start off just like I did on number 1, and I've got the change in y over the change in x, and I'm trying to go from this point to that. And it looks like I'm going to go down, which is going to give me my negative number. So I go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So in my numerator, I have a negative 4. Let's see what my change in x is, or my horizontal change. 1, 2, 3. I go right 3, and that's positive. So as I predicted, I have a negative slope, and the slope of this line is negative 4/3. In numbers 3 and 4, I don't have 2 perfect points identified, so I've got to look at my line. Like, look at this right here. That's not really right in that intersection, but if I go a little bit further, I can see the line crosses perfectly at -2, 0, and I can see it crosses perfectly here at 1, -2. So now I've found 2 perfect points, and I can move on to finding my slope. Slope is the change in y over the change in x. Let's look. I'm going down, so I'm presuming I'm going to have a negative slope. And it looks like I go down 2. And down is a negative number, so that's going to be -2. How far do I go right, which is a positive number? 1, 2, 3. I went right 3. Again, I did end up with a negative number. I can't simplify because 2 and 3 are prime numbers, no greater factor than 1. So my slope is -2/3. And I did forget to say that this also can't be simplified. There is no number greater than 1 that could go into 3 and 4. Let's take a look at number 4, our last one on this page. I don't have any perfect points, so let's just see where I can find nice, perfect intersecting points. I see this point here. And I'm going to just, because I want to have us have a simplifying opportunity, I'm going to go for this point here. I could have chosen this one too, just so you know. You can choose any points and get the same slope. So slope is the change in y over the change in x. Looks like it's a positive slope, so I'm going to go up 2 and to the right 2, both positive numbers. Now here I can see that I can simplify 2 over 2. First, I know fractions are division, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. But I could also divide my numerator and denominator by 2, and I would finally get a slope of 1. Now I want to just show you briefly, remember I said you could use any 2 points and get the same slope? Well, let's just say I chose this perfect point and this perfect point. And so I'm just going to, again, m equals the change in y over the change in x, right? Well, this goes up 1, right 1. Well, what's 1 divided by 1? It's also 1. It does not matter what points you choose. You're always going to get the same slope. That's it for this video. We will continue on to page 47 in our next video. Thanks so much.